Welcome to the Bowhunter Podcast. All bow hunting, all the time. Now, here's your host, editor Christian Berg.
All right, welcome back to the Bowhunter Podcast. We are all bow hunting all the time. Everything is changing. It's hard to believe. Another archery season is almost in the books. Of course, we've got the late season, but we've got a lot of other things to look forward to, not only late season bow hunting, but then the start of the new year, the launch of new 2026 archery products, and the trade and consumer show seasons. So there's a lot out there, and my guest today has some exciting news to share about that. I've got Jeff Poole, who is the head of the Archery Trade Association. Jeff, it is a pleasure to have you with me today.
Thanks, Christian. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm looking forward to talking about what we have coming up.
Absolutely. I mean, let's just start with the big news. We don't want to bury the lead here. So the Archery Trade Show is held every January, has been for like many decades. How long, Jeff? Do you happen to know?
It's been through some iterations, but the current iteration is 25 years old.
Okay, so for the past quarter century, and I've been at quite a few of those, well over half. I'm coming up on 17 years here this month, actually, and then several years as a full-time outdoor writer before I joined this company. But the big news is, for the very first time, and I know people are excited about this, you guys are going to have a consumer open to the public event immediately after the Archery Trade Show. And gosh, you've been hearing from people for so many years. How come I can't come to the ATA show, right, Jeff?
That's really been the impetus behind making this decision to bring a consumer show into the same week as the trade show. As you said, we've been hearing about it for years and years. And there are some folks who are convinced that if we would just open those doors for consumers for a couple of days, you'd have tens of thousands of bow hunters from across the country coming into the show. And we're going to find out this year.
So it's called the Archery and Bow Hunting Super Show, and it's going to be right there in downtown Indianapolis. And you guys have, I mean, just a pile of manufacturers lined up to participate in this thing.
Right. So the trade show, which has been historically a 3-day show, has been shortened to 2 days. And we've brought in the consumer show, the Archery and Bowhunting Super Show, for the following 2 days. And so we've got a 4-day show for exhibitors. And as you said, virtually all of the major manufacturers across the industry. There's a couple of exceptions, but generally speaking, every manufacturer that would be there for the trade show will be there for the consumer show.
And it's not just the show where you can go around. I mean, this is going to be an awesome opportunity. Like, I look forward to going to the ATA every year because, you know, even here at Bowhunter and in my previous life at Peterson's Bowhunting, you know, we try to put our new gear guide together. We're reaching out to these manufacturers, honestly, even right now, Jeff, and starting to get information about some of the new stuff. But even if I've seen a picture or if I've gotten, you know, a press release or some product specifications, ATA is like the first chance to actually get your hands on this stuff, to see it in person, to hold it, to maybe take that new bow over to the demo lane and shoot it. So there's, I imagine, right? I mean, the point of doing this is going to give everybody a chance to do those sorts of things, right?
Well, you know, ever since COVID, it seems like consumer events have really gained a lot of momentum and a lot of steam. You know, we've seen the success of the TAC events, for example, And really, it's because manufacturers want the opportunity to be in front of consumers and create that consumer demand for their products. I mean, let's face it, they designed them, they built them, they live them and breathe them every day, and nobody can sell their products better than they can. So really, the super show and the opportunity for consumers to come in and see and demo the products and talk to the design engineers that designed and built these products. It's a first time ever type of opportunity, and I cannot imagine being a bow hunter in the upper Midwest and not wanting to come to the show and see it. When you think about the environment of the show, it's still going to be a trade show environment. And what that means is there's trade show quality displays there. It's not pop up tents and that kind of thing. I mean, it's the real deal. It's the full product line from all the manufacturers, not just a sampling of it. It's the wow factor of the show. When you see those big displays, the carpeted aisles, the hanging signs and banners, it's the wow effect. And I think it's going to be quite a spectacle for a lot of consumers who have not had that opportunity to see something like this in the past.
Yeah, and the thing is, like you said, it's the people that are going to be there. I'll give an analogy or an example from my own calendar. Being headquartered here in Pennsylvania, we have the Harrisburg show is known as, it's like the largest consumer show in the country. Now, some of these companies, of course, it's not just archery, it's all hunting, fishing, and outdoors, but some of these companies that have booths at the Archery Trade Show will have a presence at the Harrisburg show. But at the Harrisburg show, the people that they have at the booth might be, a few local people from the Mid-Atlantic region who are pro staffers, and maybe a couple employees, lower level folks from the factory or something like that. Whereas when I go to the ATA show, to your point, I can talk to the engineer who designed the bow. I can talk to the owner of the company or the president of the company or the marketing director of the company. And so this is really an opportunity for, passionate bow hunters and archers to rub shoulders with, everybody who's a who's who within our industry, Jeff.
Yeah, and it works both ways, Christian, because the leadership of these companies, as you said, the presidents and the founders are going to be there, and they want to talk to the consumers. They want to talk to their customers. The design engineers want to talk to the customers to get that exchange, get that feedback on their products. There's value there for the manufacturer as well by being able to get face to face with their customers. And I think that's one of the reasons that the manufacturers are so in favor and have been for some time of adding consumer days to the trade show. We've taken this ATA trade show, which again was a 3-day event, and we've turned it into a whole week of events. Not only the trade show and the archery and bow hunting super show, but adding archery tournaments in there, and on the front end for the retailers, adding some buy group shows to the front end of the trade show. So there's more value there for the retailers by adding consumer shows. We're not taking anything at all away from the retailers. They're vital to the whole show week concept and keeping the trade show alive and well. So we've added some buying opportunities for them on the front end. And then we've added some shooting tournaments on the back end for more participation, not just the opportunity to come and see the show, but come and participate.
Yeah, I had known about the Rushmore Rumble. So that's a tournament. It's an existing tournament that was held out in the Dakotas. And you guys are actually bringing that now to Indianapolis. I believe it's an NFAA event, right?
Yeah.
And you're bringing that to Indy. and bringing all those shooters to Indy as part of this whole, as you said, this week-long celebration of archery.
Yeah, that was an important component of the whole week. So when we were strongly considering adding these consumer days, I went to Bruce Call over at NFAA and said, "Look, if we add a couple of consumer days, would you be interested in bringing one of your tournaments in and co-locating with us?" And he said, "Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a great idea." For the Super Show, it means that we open the doors to we already have 2 or 3 or 4,000 people there who are part of the Rushmore Rumble to see the show before the first tickets ever sold to the show.
Well,
So it really bolsters the attendance there. It gives us a target audience presence. And then adding in the youth tournament through S3DA is another big factor too. And it really checks that youth box, that all important youth box, that we're all interested in making sure that the next generation of archers is recognized, and we're doing what we can to foster that.
yeah, I mean, so again, that's great too. The Scholastic 3D archery tournament that's going to be held there in the Rushmore Rumble. Now, the other thing that's really good about that, I think, for attendees is you've got a bunch of pro shooters who are now going to be in town, who are going to be there. Most of these folks, have sponsorships and endorsement deals with various manufacturers. I have to imagine they're going to be in those booths during the Archery Super Show. People are going to have an opportunity. That's, again, more folks, some of the top shooters in the country, in the world probably, are going to be in that building in Indianapolis. Again, it's January 9th and 10th in Indianapolis. So, and then you've got the Scholastic. So like you said, you're bringing kids in. So it's a great opportunity for mom, dad, bring the kids, expose them to opportunities that they can experience in youth archery, get a chance to see some great competition. If you've never actually been to a tournament, here's an opportunity to maybe go watch part of the tournament. And, oh, by the way, shoot the new Bowtech, shoot the new Elite bows, maybe even buy some stuff. I mean, that was actually one of my big questions. Now, I would imagine, Jeff, you've probably left it up to each individual manufacturer who's exhibiting there. But I do wonder, being so earlier in the year, like I know at ATA, they have some of the new stuff to show the dealers, to show the media. Like, will I actually be able to put some money down on the table and buy a pack of those new broadheads, or get one of those new arrow rests that really catches my eye?
Well, you're right. We have to leave that up to the exhibitor, the exhibiting company. So we're not the product police on the show floor. And I think what we'll see is the same thing we see at other consumer shows and consumer events, whether it's the TAC events, whether it's some of the shooting tournaments that take place, or some of the hunting and fishing shows around the country. Those companies that typically sell at those shows, they probably will be selling in this show as well, because they're in front of consumers. But I think most of the companies that have established dealer networks don't have any interest in selling around their dealers. They will be promoting their products. Many of them will be offering an incentive to go to their local archery shops and purchase what they've just seen at the show. But that will be left up to each individual exhibitor to determine. I don't think, just because of the nature of how you purchase bows and arrows and other things that you need to be sized for, fitted for, you need to try out and so forth, I don't think that consumers should expect to see those items for sale at the show. But there's a possibility that other items in the accessory area may be for sale, particularly from some of the smaller companies that don't have an established dealer network.
Well, and you mentioned something that I hadn't even thought of. you mentioned in the word incentives. And so like, yeah, like how cool would that be? So, I'll give an example. I have no idea what Bowtech is actually doing, but you go there and you shoot some of their new bows, and maybe they have some kind of a show special going where they're like, hey, I can't give you this bow today because I've only got 3 of them here at the show or whatever. But if you go to your local pro shop when you get home, we're going to give you this coupon, or we're going to give you this code, and we're going to throw in, whatever, a free octane stabilizer with your bow, or we're going to give you $50 off the retail price, or whatever it is. I mean, that's a win, like you said, for everybody.
Right. And that, maybe not with Bowtech, but I have heard from several exhibitors, many exhibitors, that kind of incentive will be going on there at the show, where the manufacturers can create that demand for their product and then give the consumer a reason to go to their local archery shop and make that purchase. So it is a win all the way around. Even if if the manufacturer is not selling at the show, they're providing an incentive. So the attendee, the consumer, is getting a good price, or an add-on, and the dealer is actually making the sale.
All right. So, you're piquing people's interest, right? This is a brand new thing. It's going to be the first time. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm going to be there for ATA like I always am. And I'm going to stay for Friday, probably, part of Saturday, because I want to see what kind of reception this thing gets too. Another question that I have for you about this, part of ATA every year is the after hours, the social times. Usually there's some receptions, maybe a country music concert, that sort of thing. Is there going to be, during that consumer portion of the show, like after hours opportunities for people to get together and do things like that?
On the after hours on the consumer days, the day before the consumer show opens, the evening before it opens, we will be hosting a film festival. This is a ticketed event, but tickets are available on site. It's not the tickets are free. It's just a way to monitor how many people are coming into the room. The night of the Super Show is left open at this point. We have the tournaments that are running into the evening, into the 6 and 7 o'clock hour. And this first year through, we are, we're eyes wide open as well, trying to learn as much as we can from this and see what's going to fit the best on that main night of the consumer show, which would be the evening of the first day of the Super Show.
Friday night.
And fit something into that. Yeah.
Gotcha. And what about, I know, again, same thing with the ATA, like you guys have your hotel blocks and everything like that. Are you guys working with the local hotels as far as any kind of deals or central, contact for people who want to come to the Bowhunting Super Show?
Yeah. Great point. Ticket sales are way outpacing expectations right now. And the interesting thing is, over half of our ticket sales to date are 2-day tickets. So, folks are, unless they're local, of course, they're going to be needing a hotel room. So we have hotel room blocks with all of the close hotels. The great thing about Indianapolis is so many of the hotels are connected to the convention center through a skywalk or a skywalk system throughout the city. So you park your car, you don't have to get back in it until you're ready to leave 2 days later.
That's a really good thing. If you've never been to Indianapolis in January, that's a really good thing, because it tends, I don't know what it is about ATA week, but it tends to be cold and windy, but that skywalk really saves you. So that's a great feat.
Yeah, don't forget the horizontal snow in these many years, but they know how to handle it up there, so that's not a problem. But when it comes to the hotels, we've got a low price guarantee on all the hotel rooms, and folks can book their hotel room through the atashow.com website, which is the same site they can get more information about the whole week's worth of events.
Well, you know what? You guys have actually been very kind to sponsor the Bowhunter podcast a little bit and to help get the word out on this. And I got to do this, Reed, and you just gave me the perfect opportunity to jump right into this, Jeff, because I got to get this somewhere in our conversation. So I want to tell you, bow hunters, okay, if you live for the hunt, you know it's about more than gear. It's about the community. And that's what Jeff and I have been talking about, bringing the entire archery and bow hunting community together at the Archery and Bow Hunting Super Show, January 9th and 10th in Indianapolis. Get a first look at the newest bows, arrows, and hunting gear. Learn from the pros and swap stories with hunters who share your passion. So if you want to come, find me, grab me by the shoulder, pull your phone out, show me the big buck that you shot this fall. Hey, maybe I want to buy that article for a future issue of Bowhunter magazine. If you see Jeff, maybe you want to go tell him about some great idea you've got on how to promote archery or whatever. But be there with Jeff and I and a whole lot of other people who are cooler than us, right, Jeff? January 9th and 10th in Indianapolis. The gear, the knowledge, the people, all in one place for the first time ever. Don't miss it. Get your tickets and info, as Jeff was alluding to. Just go to archerytrade.org/super show, and you get all the details right there. So, I mean, my goodness, it's, I tell you what, anytime you try something new, Jeff, it's a little bit of a risk. You don't know. But I give you guys credit for trying this because, like you said, people on the consumer side have been begging for years to get their feet in the door. And some of these manufacturers have been looking for ways to enhance the value, I guess you'd say, of the time and effort and money that they're spending to come to the trade show. And this is going to give them a whole new group of people to interact with, like you said, to promote all this stuff that they've been spending the last year getting ready for us.
Yeah, that's true, and the manufacturers have been, the primary proponents of bringing consumers onto the show floor. There's much more value for them now with the whole week concept versus just the ATA trade show. So they have, it's expensive to ship in displays and get it set up, and travel expenses for all your staff. Um, and now they're able to just have one travel expense, one shipping expense, but they've got two buying shows, the trade show, the consumer show, all in one setup, all under one roof. So it's highly efficient for them, and they're strongly in favor of it. And I think what we're going to see over the next several years is more and more exhibiting companies coming into the show to take advantage of those efficiencies and take advantage of the multiple audiences that they have now, because it's not just retailers and consumers, it's men, it's women, it's youth, it's bow hunters, it's target shooters, it's the whole archery industry from corner to corner.
That's right. That's right. And, I don't want to call anybody out. I'm not going to name any names, but like you said, it's not 100% participation. There are some brands, a couple pretty notable brands, who aren't participating, and they want to sit back and see how it goes, Jeff. So yeah. I'm thinking, to your point, man, I hope when it's all said and done that some of the folks who weren't there are going to say to themselves, man, we may have really missed out. Let's make sure we're there in following years, because those folks were having a heck of a time and really celebrating, everything it means to be an archer and a bow hunter and living this lifestyle that we all love.
And the door is open.
That's right. That's right. Hey, everybody is welcome eventually to come around to our way of thinking, right, Jeff?
Of course.
We won't hold it against them. The
Right.
important thing is that you end up being right. You don't have to be the first one to be right. You just
Right.
have to be right before it's all over. So, yeah. Um, so I want to kind of shift gears a little bit here. And again, we hope that we see everybody at the Archery and Bowhunting Super Show. But I want to, it's kind of cool to have you on. I've never had you on before, Jeff. I'm not sure that honestly that people really probably even know exactly what the ATA is. Tell me about the Archery Trade Association, how many companies and brands you guys represent, and what it is that you do for all of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. The Archery Trade Association is a bit unique in terms of being a trade group in that it represents both archery manufacturers and archery related manufacturers and retailers. So many associations out there, they're narrow enough that they represent one end or the other, but we represent both. So it gives us an opportunity also to bring the two groups together, which is the primary purpose of the trade show, and foster that relationship. But it also allows us to focus on promoting participation in archery, which of course helps both of our constituencies, the retailers and the manufacturers. Um, our legislative and government relations work often flies under the radar, but we've got a pretty successful track record in protecting bow hunting rights, hunting seasons, expanding equipment in at the state level, bringing uniformity across the 50 states and as you know, every one of those 50 states has a different set of hunting rules and regulations and equipment regulations and so on. So it's a bit like herding cats when you're trying to bring any continuity in equipment and seasons, archery seasons across 50 states. But that is part of the role of ATA. All of these things directly and indirectly work back to benefit archery retailers and archery manufacturers. Um, so that's in a nutshell. Now education spans three groups: the retailers, the manufacturers, and the consumers. So we have educational content for all three groups, but we really focus on retailers when it comes to education. Taking an archery retailer. So for the listeners out there, I know they have their favorite one or two archery shops. And fortunately, we're in an industry where passion drives everything we do around archery and bow hunting. And that extends to the retailer as well, which means that most archery shops, the owners of archery shops, got into business because they love archery. They don't necessarily know how to run a retail shop. They don't necessarily know retailing 101. And that's where ATA's role comes in being able to educate them on how to buy, how to inventory, how to merchandise, what point of purchase systems are, and how they can benefit your business. So there's a lot of education that goes into what ATA is involved in as well.
Yeah, and you guys, you mentioned the consumers too, because you have an organization under the ATA umbrella, right, for bow hunters as well.
Yeah. Bowhunters United is our fairly new. It's about 4 years old consumer arm. The whole purpose behind Bowhunters United is to educate and activate. So we want to educate bow hunters on how to be better bow hunters, much like your show does, and we want to activate. We want to use bow hunters as a group of activists to assist us on our legislative efforts, both at the state level and the federal level. So that, from my days at NRA, I can vouch for the importance of having a constituency of advocates that can reach out and contact their legislators for a particular point of view and really help our cause and our issues move forward. Without that, it's our lobbyists talking to a few legislators behind closed doors. But when you have a cadre of activists out there these days, it's a matter of sending that quick email, and elected officials monitor those emails. They know when they get 100 emails or 1,000 emails on a certain subject matter, they take notice of that. And so that's really the importance of Bowhunters United. And you'll see Bowhunters United represented well at the Super Show, because again, that's the show for consumers, and Bowhunters United is our organization for consumers.
Yeah, and that's a free to join type group, isn't it, Jeff?
It is free to join, and everyone that attends the Super Show will get a membership into Bowhunters United. Free to join. What we ask is that when we send that request for action, that you just take that 15 seconds and send that email, because the power of numbers is what gets legislators' attendance.
Yeah, and there are many times where all of our interests are aligned, manufacturers and retailers and those of us, as we say consumers, but it's really hunters is what I'm saying, bow hunters.
Yeah.
Perfect example this year, and I'm sure that ATA was a part of the large coalition that played a role in eliminating the prohibition on Sunday hunting here in Pennsylvania. We've had many, many Sundays for the first time. Every Sunday within the archery season has been open. And for the very first time in my life, I was able to go to church on a Sunday morning and to go out and get in a deer stand on a Sunday afternoon. And normally I couldn't do that. Sunday was strictly church and football because there was no bow hunting allowed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now I can go bow hunting on a Sunday, which, I know a lot of you who are listening or watching are thinking, boy, that really, like, you guys were in the Stone Age, because so many other states have been hunting on Sunday forever. But like, that was a big deal here, Jeff.
Yeah, it was, and it's a big victory for hunters. And I think what hunters in PA will find, if the other states are any indication, is that yeah, there's a lot of hardcore guys that will now be hunting more days, but for most hunters, it gives you more flexibility in your schedule. You don't have to go hunting on Saturday because you can't go on Sunday. You now can go, so it means that it frees up your Saturday to do something with the family or the kids, and because you have a Sunday opportunity now. And not a whole lot of downside to that. And I know PA has been wrestling with that for a lot of years, so I'm glad to see that finally get through.
Yeah. And it's exactly what you said too, Jeff. Like, I hunt a lot of days, probably a lot more than most, but I probably won't hunt a lot of Sunday mornings because I am a church goer, but it certainly doesn't bother me if you do, because to your point, I'm not out every Tuesday morning or every Thursday morning either.
Right.
But it would seem silly to tell you that you couldn't hunt on Tuesday morning. So why would I care if you hunt on Sunday? So no, I think it's good, and it's similar to weapons as well. Like you talked about it, like, just because you added those Sundays, do I think the deer harvest is going to go up a whole ton? No, because you can only kill one buck, right? I mean, every hunter in Pennsylvania gets $1 a year, no matter what weapon you shoot it with. So it doesn't matter if you shoot it on a Sunday in archery season, or a Tuesday in rifle season, or a Saturday in muzzle in flintlock season. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. So I don't think we're going to see any major impact to the resource in that regard. And it brings me to another topic that I wanted to discuss with you. And it's funny because before we started the show, I brought up the crossbow, and I said, I'd be really interested on what your take is on crossbows, because there's no doubt that there's more and more people using them. And I guess for those who are doing that, they're pretty happy about it. I know for a bunch of other people who don't use them, they're not as happy, I guess, about all these folks picking up crossbows, whether they're former vertical bow hunters or maybe they're rifle hunters who are coming into the archery season, with a crossbow or whatever. But you guys said you've been doing a lot of monitoring of this trend, and you're actually going to release some new study data at the Archery Trade Show in January.
Yeah, that's right. Crossbows. You want to talk about a hot topic across the archery industry, whether you're at an archery tournament or you're at deer camp or you're at a 3D, it doesn't matter. You bring up the subject of crossbows, and everybody has an opinion, and a firm opinion on it. There's not a lot of people in the middle on that issue, and it's very interesting because of it. And there's different ways to look at crossbows and its effect or impact on hunting seasons, and bag limits and length of hunting seasons. Are more deer taken because more people are using crossbows? There's the purist, of course, will argue that it takes no a tenth of a percent of the skill that a vertical bow takes to hunt with the crossbow, and therefore it should be restricted in some form or fashion. All of that may be true, but it does meet the definition of archery equipment that ATA has established. So ATA does recognize crossbows as legitimate and bona fide archery equipment. And we have for the last 10 years, and the genie's out of the bottle there. It's not going back in. The crossbows and crossbow usage and states that allow crossbows for hunting continue to expand. I travel around the country quite a bit and visit archery shops as much as I can when I travel around. And in different states, one of the questions that I ask all these retailers is their percentage of crossbow sales versus everything else: combo, traditional, compound, traditional, recurve, what have you. In some states, it's more than 50% is crossbow sales than compound. So crossbows are here to stay, but it's been such a heated issue for so long, and most people's opinions are based on just that, their opinion. So we commenced a study a year ago on crossbows, and the effect on hunting industry, seasons, bag limits. Who is the crossbow customer, both now and 10 years from now and 10 years ago? And how has the crossbow customer evolved? Does the crossbow customer come from former compound users? Do they come from firearms users? Do crossbow users evolve into compound users? There's a lot of questions out there that need to be answered, and this data will answer most of those questions. And the study is going to be released during ATA Show Week. We have an archery and bowhunting summit that we hold there during the trade show days, where we invite in state agencies and NGOs, like the conservation groups around the country, as well as our interested retailers and manufacturers to come in. And we break down the study. We have sessions over a day and a half period. And after the trade show, after the summit, we'll release that data out through the trade magazines and archery magazines. And so whether you're a retailer or a manufacturer, a consumer, interested party, you'll have access to that data by February of next year.
All right, let's take a quick break and share a word from a sponsor. Bowhunters. If you live for the hunt, you know it's about more than the gear. It's about the community. The Archery and Bowhunting Super Show, January 9 and 10 in Indianapolis, brings that community together. Get a first look at the newest bows, arrows, and hunting gear. Learn from the pros and swap stories with hunters who share your passion. January 9th and 10th in Indianapolis. The gear, the knowledge, the people, all in one place for the first time ever. Don't miss it. Get your tickets and more information today at archerytrade.org/Super Show. I'm looking forward to being there, and I hope to see you as well. Check it out.
No matter where your pursuits take you, no matter the quarry, there's always an element of chance.
Deer.
But skill is more reliable than luck.
I feel like we're in a pretty good position. We're just gonna have to wait.
The most trusted archery authority, Bowhunter TV. Watch now on Outdoor Channel, Sportsman Channel, and My Outdoor TV.
Now I realize you probably don't even have the final report, and it'd be way too much to go into, but I gotta ask you, gotta try to get something, a little tidbit. Tease me. Is there something that you've learned or discussed that's going to be in this report that surprised you, or something that has really stood out where you're like, I think that people are going to really find this interesting, or I think that, some of this stuff either confirms what we thought, or maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, Christian, I have not seen the study yet. I mean, we're talking when it's released, first week of January, it will be hot off the press. The results are still being put together. We've contracted outside companies, third parties, to put this information together, unbiased companies to put this information together for us. And we have not received the reports yet. But I can guarantee you there'll be a lot of interesting information in there. If I were a betting man, knowing what a hot issue the crossbow issue is, there'll be data in there that people want to immediately stand behind, and others that want to immediately reject.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'll just share. We looked at this on a comprehensive level I think it's probably about 3 years ago now. And I said, this report will probably give us another opportunity to really take a look at it and present the current data. But, there's a clear trend in all of these states that have allowed crossbows into the archery seasons that the growth has been really explosive. And here in my home state of Pennsylvania, it was a big deal back in the spring when the Game Commission released their harvest report for the 24-25 season, because for the very first time in the history of record keeping, there were more bucks harvested with archery tackle than there were with rifles. Wow. And that had never happened before. It was very close. It was like 51-49. But the point is, just a little more than half of all the bucks that hunters took last year in Pennsylvania were taken with archery tackle. But of those archery bucks, 2/3 were taken with crossbows and 1/3 with vertical bows. So if you take the crossbow out of the equation, bow hunting wouldn't have come close to approaching, the buck total. So what does that mean? Is that good? Is that bad? Is it neither? Again, that will sort of come down to opinion. I think on a resource level, it's sort of neutral, because if we're shifting harvest, I mentioned earlier, completely unrelated to this, but it's a 1 buck state here, so you can only kill one. So if they're killing some more bucks during the archery season and a few less bucks during the rifle season, I mean, the state biologists probably don't much care one way or the other. But it is interesting, because here's the thing I think is funny about crossbows. And it's tough for me, just like it is for you. Like you're the CEO of the ATA, right? So you represent, amongst your membership, you have vertical bow manufacturers, you have crossbow manufacturers, and you have some companies that manufacture both. And then you probably have some companies on both sides that aren't maybe necessarily great fans of the other, So I don't know how you win, Jeff. Maybe you and I are a couple of the only people can relate, because I can tell you, as the editor of Bowhunter, I can't win because, listen, we all have personal opinions on this stuff. My personal opinion as it is relevant, but not very much, because the landscape is changing. And as the bow hunting community evolves, but Pennsylvania is a perfect example. Again, I mean, I live here, so I always offer examples, but this is one of the biggest bow hunting states in the country. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Texas, maybe. It's indisputable. I think we actually have, well, I know we're number one in like bow hunters per square mile. Pennsylvania is called the Keystone State. It's a keystone state for the archery industry. There's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. If we have reached a point, and we have, because we've seen it in the data, 65 to 70% of our archery participation and our archery harvest for the last couple of seasons has been taken with crossbows. What do we do about this? To your point, I can't put the genie back in the bottle. Are these people part of the bow hunting community or aren't they? Do we serve them or do we not? I realize that we have a very, very storied history at Bowhunter Magazine. 2026 is our 55th anniversary, Jeff. So you guys are celebrating something with the new Archery and Bow Hunting Super Show. Bowhunters celebrating our 55th anniversary in 2026. It's funny, I got a letter, an email from a guy who really doesn't like crossbows a few months back, and he said, I'm pretty sure that this isn't what M.R. James intended when he founded Bowhunter Magazine, because there was something to do with crossbows in an issue. And I had to kind of sit back and laugh, because I guarantee you it wasn't. Because when M.R. James founded Bowhunter Magazine, there were no crossbows being used for crossbow hunting. So of course it wasn't. But is that really the question? Is the question what Bowhunter Magazine was doing 55 years ago? Or is the question what we're going to do 55 years from now or next year? Yeah. And you guys are in a very similar boat.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when you look at crossbows and the advancements, the technical advancements that are being made in crossbows, it's an engineering marvel to a degree with what they're doing with some of them right now. It's starting to get into an area where it's becoming challenging for some of the archery shops to work on them and maintain them and even restring them in some cases. So, I think it's a part of the archery industry, especially in the area of equipment, that is still advancing pretty sharply from one year to the next. I mean, not to say that the new compounds that come out every year don't have some improvements on them from year to year, but in terms of advancements, they've gotten quite small because the product has matured pretty well, but the crossbow is still developing.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. Again, I would say this isn't a matter of opinion. I'd say it's inarguable. And if you took me to court, I could prove it to a jury. There's probably been 3 or 4 times the technological advancement in crossbows than there have been in vertical bows over the last 5 years. At least in terms, okay, I do have to hedge that to a certain extent in terms of raw performance figures. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's been advancement in vertical bows, but a lot of the advancement there has been in tuning technologies and refinements like accessory attachment systems, interchangeable modular grips, improvements in string angles and things like that. So things that have measurable benefit to you in terms of accuracy, aiming, that sort of thing. But in terms of the actual speed and energy that your bow is putting out, not a lot of change. But if
Right.
you go over to the crossbow side, we've seen incredible advancement in the amount of speed and energy that those machines are putting out. And, the reason for that is obvious. And it boils down to the fact that you don't have to hand draw a crossbow.
Yeah.
You can't make a 500 foot per second compound bow because you'd have to draw 250-pound limbs and nobody can draw it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But
Yeah.
you can put 300-pound limbs on a crossbow with a crank mechanism and you can get that back, and they can make the limbs, thicker. They can do a lot of things on a crossbow that you can't do with a vertical bow. And they're not, the truth is, and the anti-crossbow folks will be happy to hear me say this. Listen, they're not the same. They're not the same. Whoever said they were the same, they're not the same. Nobody has to like them. Nobody has to use them. But the fact is that, and there's some legitimate questions to your point, Jeff, as technology continues to improve. Where's the line to be drawn? You're not going to be able to make that decision unilaterally. I certainly can't make that decision unilaterally, but together as a bow hunting community, as an archery industry, as the state wildlife agencies, hey, this is a legitimate conversation to have. And, as regulations are implemented, I think that's all going to play out over time, as this technology, as the crossbow matures, to use your word, like the compound bow has matured over the last 30 years.
Yeah, and it's the whole crossbow issue. Even when we use the data from this upcoming study that we're about to release, because there is still so much more technological gain to be recognized in the crossbow industry. It is I think a piece of equipment that's going to have to continue to be evaluated, and at what point does it go beyond what can be defined as archery equipment? I don't think it's anywhere near maturing as a piece of equipment yet. So it'll be interesting to see how it continues to advance, because of course the crossbow companies, like every other company, needs to steadily release new product. That's their lifeblood, like any other product company, and in order to do that, there needs to be improvements and advancements. And so it's very interesting where that market, that equipment is going. But it's been fascinating, some of what they've been able to come up with to this point. And we have a technical team that looks at and evaluates and establishes ATA's position on various equipment. And I'm sure that just like any other equipment that's worthy of evaluation out there, we'll continue to look at crossbows.
How much of a concern do you hear from among your membership, Jeff, about crossbows cannibalizing vertical bow sales?
Well, there's, I think, do I hear it? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I hear it. But hopefully it'll be one of those areas that our new study can shed some light on. And is that happening? To what degree is it happening? What have the trends been like on that? Certainly when you look at a state, let's take Michigan, for example, that a few years ago passed the regulation allowing crossbows, and crossbow sales just took off in the state. So, if you looked at a short couple year window, you would say, my gosh, it's overtaking compound bows by a huge margin. But it was only in that short window of time immediately following a change in the regulations. If you looked at it over a longer period of time, the results wouldn't be nearly as lopsided as they would be with that short window.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. And crossbows are never going to be, 90% of all the bow hunters. Just like compound bows aren't going to be either. You know what I mean? There's going to be some mix. And, my thing is when I talk to people is because people, like you said, everyone has a strong opinion. And I don't even want to argue with anyone about it because I'm like, I like my compound bow. I'm not anti-crossbow. I've hunted with a crossbow. I typically take my compound when I go to the woods, but I don't get up in arms if you're hunting on the neighboring property with a crossbow. I mean, it's just the way it is. But what I tell people is if you feel strongly that the vertical bow is superior, and yet we see that everyone votes with their dollars. I mean, it's a free market. People can buy whatever they want to buy. They can hunt with whatever they want to hunt with. And if the crossbow, and it's clear from the data that at least over the last handful of years, the crossbow is having a day, right? Or having a year or having a season of prosperity and growth. And if that bothers you because you think that somebody is missing out on something, as part of the overall bow hunting experience if they choose to use a crossbow as opposed to a vertical bow, well, then you've got a marketing challenge. You've got to go out there and sell to people whatever it is that you're trying to advocate for. And if you can convince people of that, they'll eventually migrate. To your point, they'll migrate over to the vertical bow. What you won't convince people of, in my experience, Jeff, call me crazy, but if I walk up to you and tell you you're stupid or what you're doing is terrible, and that's my opening line, everything else I have to say to you after that is probably not going to be very well received. And that's what I tell all these guys that just can't stand crossbows. I'm like, okay, that's fine. You're probably right. It's your opinion, and you're probably right. But I'm just telling you, if you really don't like all those people using those crossbows, walking up to them all and telling them how much you don't like them is probably not going to get them to put that down and pick up the vertical bow. Probably better off saying, hey, you probably have had a lot of fun hunting with your crossbow. And I'm telling you, you ought to try this vertical bow because it's going to add another element or two or three into your hunt that you didn't even know you were missing out on. You didn't even appreciate, the added challenge or the added enjoyment that comes with that. And you ought to give it a try. Well, now you might be onto something. Again, that's me.
Well, I think you're spot on there because you can pass judgment just because somebody hunts with a crossbow, but if you don't have any more information, is it a bad thing that a crossbow might be able to extend somebody's years of hunting with a bow? That can no longer, through injury or what have you, pull a compound back. I don't know. I don't think that's a bad thing, but I also don't really want to go down the road of saying, well, it's acceptable under this condition or that condition or whatever the circumstances might be. So I think that as we've both pointed out, that the whole discussion around crossbows is based on individual opinion. And if we can shed some light, if we can bring some facts to the argument here in the next couple of months, and now, sure, people can immediately discount the data, but if we can bring some facts to the argument and start basing some opinions on real fact, then I think we'll all be a little better off for it, good or bad, right or wrong. We can't go wrong with having more data.
No, and it's way, way bigger than, crossbows and vertical bows. Hunting as a whole, one of the things that I've always loved the most about hunting is that everybody gets to do it exactly how they want within the rules. right? There's rules and regulations that we all have to follow, but there's a lot of latitude afforded to us as sportsmen within those rules and regulations. And some people love hunting, when it's super cold and snowy outside. And some people can't stand it. They love the early season when it's still green and warm in the woods. And there's no two of us. That's the thing I think is amazing about hunting. There's hardly any two hunters in the world that do every single thing exactly the same way when they go into the woods. And that's what makes it neat. And I just don't like the idea of thinking that what I think is the ideal way to do it should be the ideal way for everybody. I just don't want to be in that position.
Well, I think at the end of the day, we all have to realize we're on the same team. We're all hunters. We're all sportsmen. We all share a common cause, and we all need to come together at the right time to preserve our interests in being able to get out in the field and access to public lands and preserving hunting seasons. So, at the end of the day, we're all on the same team.
Well, yeah. And we could probably close with a brief discussion of this as a way to kind of exit out of the crossbow discussion and just kind of highlight what you said about being on the same team. As the truth of the matter is, COVID notwithstanding, everything to do with the outdoors experienced a fantastic surge, during COVID. And hunting was certainly right there. Bow hunting too. Bow hunting had some great years. Boating, RVing, camping, hiking, kayaking, you name it. Everything had a boom. And we had some great years on the heels of COVID where we reversed, some long-standing trends and decline. But we've returned to baseline now. And you see that we still have that steady erosion, and I don't think there's any demographic data that shows, unfortunately, that hunting overall or bow hunting is going to be a big growth sport unless something new comes along, societally to change it. As these baby boomers continue to age out, we're just not bringing in, enough younger people. Like you mentioned at the beginning of the show, the TAC events are great, and it's awesome to go to a TAC and see thousands of people coming out to the mountain to participate in that. And it's, there's a bunch of young people, but we still don't have enough. We need to do whatever we can to try to bring more and more people into our sport, because if we don't, the future is uncertain.
Well, you hit on a very important part of again, kind of being on the same team. We all bear that responsibility of not only maintaining access to hunting opportunities and the opportunity to get outdoors for ourselves, but for the next generation. And there are fewer and fewer kids that have that opportunity to get out. And so I think it's not just about making sure that we expose our own kids. It's what about the friends of our kids? What about others that live in the neighborhood or on your street that don't have that opportunity to get out there and experience the outdoors? It really starts with getting them out there, and then their interests will carry them in the direction, whether that's fishing or hunting and archery, bow hunting, and hopefully it is. We do see some solid growth from NASP and what they're doing at the scholastic level. S3DA is, as we mentioned earlier, is doing great things with that transition of young people from target shooting to hunting, and that's an area of focus for us as well. Is getting them exposed to shooting a bow is great. But what's next? So I think we all have a bit of a responsibility there. And again, that's not exclusive to archery or bow hunting. That's the outdoors in general.
Yeah, I got to share something as we close, Jeff, because you reminded me of it. I haven't told anybody about this except for my wife and my kid. I got a voicemail on the 4th of November. A friend of my son, so a young man, 19-year-old kid, a friend of my son got an old Matthews bow from his uncle this past summer. It needed a new string, and he brought it over here to my house one day last summer, and I put a new string on it for him, got a peep sight in there, took him out in the yard. I got him shooting a little bit. I was actually in my own tree on the 4th of November. Tony called me. I want to play this voicemail for you. It's short, Jeff, because this is what it's all about.
Hey, Chris, it's Tony. You ain't gonna believe this. I just smoked my first buck with the Matthews. I just want to give you a call to say thank you for getting me into bow hunting, and hope you have a great rest of your day. All right, bye.
Holy cow! That is what it's all about, Christian.
Jeff, I'm tearing up playing that for you. I kind of shed a couple tears because I was thinking. I mean, I get choked up. I do because I know this kid. I coach this kid in Little League. He's a great kid. He was excited, and I was the first guy that he wanted to call, Jeff. He said his tree stand. He just shot his first buck. Yeah. All I did was spend an hour and a half helping the kid get a new string on his bow. I mean, I'd had him over. He's shot here. I mean, he's been around. But the point is, I didn't scout. I didn't hang his stand. He did it. But I just played a small role in that. But that was so special. Yeah. And Tony Kuhn, man, shout out to you, Tony. I love you, man. I love you. Congratulations on your first archery buck, man. It's awesome. It's awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do what Jeff said. Do everything you can to expose people to this lifestyle. Get out there, and Jeff and I are going to be looking for you. When, Jeff? When are we going to be looking for him?
Well, I'll tell you, we've got the whole week going the early January, but on Friday and Saturday,
the 9th and
10th in Indianapolis at the convention center.
That's right. So you can come. Like I said, you can tell me all about your hunts from this fall. You can tell me that I'm too liberal on crossbows because I don't hate everyone who shoots them, or you can talk to me about something else. But you got to get tickets if you want to do it. So you go to archerytrade.org/super show. Jeff, I appreciate the hour, man. It was an interesting conversation, and I'm looking forward to learning more in January about a lot of things when I'm out in Indianapolis.
Great, Christian. Thanks for having me. I look forward to seeing you there in Indy.
Thanks for downloading the Bowhunter Podcast. All bow hunting, all the time. Pick up the latest issue of Bowhunter magazine on your local newsstand or connect with us online at bowhunter.com.